welcome to the Friday Show presented by Woodbine. This weekend on Saturday, the Grade 3 Matron, and on Sunday, the Ontario Derby. Both are Grade 3 events on the all-weather track. I'm Ray Paulick, joined by Joe Nevills, and we are delighted to have trainer John Sadler with us here today, the trainer of the #1 horse in the world, Flightline. John, welcome to the Friday Show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, this Saturday, you have your final workout in California before shipping to Kentucky for the Breeders' Cup Classic, I guess, right?
Correct.
What are you looking for? I know before the Pacific Classic, it was the workout 2 weeks before that you kind of tighten the screws a little bit. What are we looking for on Saturday this time?
Well, he was so good last week. He's so already there. It's not going to be ramped up too much. We're just going to let him keep working those steady 12/8, an eighth of a mile and 12 essentially. He'll work another 6 and gallop out. He's really essentially ready. I mean, he could run this week or he could run next week or when the race is in 2 weeks. So I originally said, we might be doing a little bit more this week, but right now the work will look similar to last week. He's doing great. He's, he's hitting all the boxes. So we really don't have to overdo it.
So this year's classic field is stacked as always. How do you go about scouting your potential competition here? What are you looking for? Who are horses that you kind of have your eye on and why?
Well, I have my eye on all of them. Particularly Life is Good because I know him well. He did a winner here with us in Southern California. I know he's a very good horse. I think he works tomorrow, Keeneland. We'll see how that goes. But like with Flightline, I'm just worried about Flightline. I know we're going to be in with great horses. I respect all the competition, and we're looking forward to getting there.
So, John, there's a little forecast of rain for next weekend in central Kentucky. I don't know what it is beyond that, Breeders' Cup week itself. Has this horse ever been on an off track of any kind? I know not to race, but has he trained on one at all?
Yeah, the second day we were at Belmont before the Met Mile, it rained 3 inches in about an hour. It downpoured, so he had a nice gallop through a muddy track about 2 or 3 days. That was three days before the Met Mile, and obviously he adored it. And if you look at his pedigree, looks like mud would be no problem. So I think where we're at with his training is he's going to have, with all his heavy lifting over here, we might have to tweak a breeze in Kentucky with weather, depending, he could go Sunday next week or Friday or Saturday, depending on the conditions.
Now, you've had some excellent horses in your barn, Eclipse Award-winning horses, but it just seems like Flightline is on a separate level from anything that, you've had or that we've honestly probably seen in a while. In your opinion, what is it that separates the really good horses from the great horses? Like what is that little extra oomph that Flightline seems to have over anything we've seen recently?
Well, he's just a superior athlete. He's faster, he's stronger, he's got a big engine. He's just more horse. He's LeBron in high school. He's bigger, more powerful, stronger than the other horses. I've said right along, he's never hidden his talent. He showed great ability from day one. So what's remarkable is how fast he is and can carry it over a distance of ground.
Mm-hmm. Have you measured him roughly how tall he is?
About 16'2".
16'2".
Yeah.
Has anybody done a stride analysis or measured his stride compared to what the average would be for a thoroughbred?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I think somebody has or done it off his tapes, and I'm not sure what all the results are. But like I said, we know he's pretty terrific. So it'd be fun to know some of that stuff.
You've been based in Southern California your whole career and competing in what I almost call the golden era of racing. Some really good horses, great horsemen. I don't want you to compare Flightline necessarily, but Who are some of the greatest horses you have seen personally in California?
Well, I think personally, obviously there's a big one that really stands out in my mind. And that was Spectacular Bid, because he was here for the winter with Buddy Delp, and he was just a wonderful horse. And I thought his Malibu was the best Malibu until Flightline ran. And I thought Flightline either equaled it or eclipsed it. Shoemaker, when he rode Spectacular Bid that day, kind of drove him like a car. He put him in position, he turned him off, he turned him on, and really ran an incredible race. And Flightline, just Malibu, to me, was just sensational. If you look at the horses in there, remember Baby Yoda was hot at the time, and you had the Breeders' Cup near winner with the Mark Glatt horse, the ran Dr. Scheibel, and he just, toyed with those horses. So I thought that was one of the best races I've seen.
You mentioned Shoe and Spectacular Bid. You've got Flavien Prat. How do they sync together, do you think?
Well, I mean, Flavien Prat looks like he's in his infancy compared to, to Bill Shoemaker at that point, because he rode for 40 years here. But Flavien's, a bright young star. He's sensational. I think he's, showed the East Coast how good he is this year. I don't get to watch all his races back there, but I watched some of them. They said his race on Gina Romantica at Keeneland last week was particularly good. And, I know we're going to have him here next winter. So I'm excited about having him back, even if it's for half a year.
Now, the Flightline has kind of achieved a new goal with every race he's had so far in his career. What have you learned about this horse from when he first hit the track to, heading into this year's Classic?
Well, the training with this horse has always been centered around, controlling his speed, because he's so quick and so brilliant. So we've seen him mature as a horse, learn how to rate better. He'll have works now where, he'll go off the first 8th and 12 and 4. And, maybe as a young horse before he'd ever run, he would pull super hard. So seen him relax and mature, kind of what comes with racing and age, has been really fun. And a lot of credit to my assistant, Juan Leva, who rides him. He's done a brilliant job with him. I think he said once he's like riding a tidal wave or something. It's not easy. Juan makes it look easy, and the horse does everything easily. But what they're doing is not easy.
Mm-hmm. So he's got grade 1 wins at 7 furlongs, a mile, and a mile and a quarter. Like, clearly he's proven at all range of distances, but do you think he has a keyed in sort of what distance do you think Flightline is ideal at?
I think he's ideal at all those distances. I think he's just a really good horse. He's shown his versatility on the, I don't think distance is a question with him. I think, what was particularly interesting, why he was so dominant in the San Diego, is a lot of horses that are that brilliant at a mile aren't quite as good at a mile and a quarter. He could be better at a mile and a quarter than he is at a mile, just because some of the other horses drop off, when they go more distance. So he doesn't have any limitations on distance. Probably could run on the grass too if we had to.
I mentioned earlier you started training, I think, in the late 1970s. You've won over 2,700 races, $141 million in earnings. You've had champions, 45 grade 1 winners so far. But I'd like to go back to the very beginning when before you were training, you were an assistant to the legendary veterinarian Jack Robbins. Are there things that you do every day today that carry over from when you got started with Doc Robbins that, that have kind of affected your philosophy of training?
Oh, absolutely. I've said this, he's the most influential guy in my career. Not only was he a great veterinarian, he showed a profit as an owner every year for 20 years when he owned racehorses at the same time. And he was just a great guy. He treated everybody well. He was smart. He knew his stuff. He had no tolerance for anybody that wanted to hedge the rules. He was just a great vet. And his work ethic, I come up under guys that, if you work at the track, you have to work. And he really worked, back in those days, we would be doing teeth in the afternoon, and I'd be holding the horses where he worked on the teeth at Gary Jones's barn or Joe Manzi. And, I enjoyed all those times a lot because the trainers were, a bit of characters, but all in a good way.
We didn't want to ask you about Flightline's next career or whether or not he's going to run next year, but what about John Sadler? You've had a great career. You've kind of talked recently about a succession plan. What's next for John Sadler after this year's Breeders' Cup and the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be here forever. At some point, I'll step aside and turn the reins over to my assistant Juan Leyva. But one time I kind of mentioned that before, and then word got out John's not going to keep going or something, and then you kind of kill your business. So when I'll know when the time is right, and I'll always be working. I might be buying the horses more, maybe more sales, could be things like that. So I'll be doing something, but I'm not the guy to drop in the shed row. We've had a few of those in California, and I'm still thinking there's some travel I'd like to get in, some different countries I'd like to see more of. So I've got some things on my bucket list, and who's to say? I mean, everybody teases me. I say 2 more years. And we got some good yearlings at Keeneland this year. So I mean, we just keep our, who knows what's going to bring, but I'm enjoying it right now. I have young assistants with Juan Leyva and Enrique Miranda and Alex Masono, 3 young guys that are really good, really picking up the bit, and that's giving the whole outfit a lot of energy. So we'll keep going, and then we'll kind of figure it out.
Well, John, we want to wish you the best, wish the entire staff the best as Flightline approaches the Breeders' Cup. Do you have anybody else going in the Breeders' Cup this year?
Yeah, we have Edgeway, who was second in the filly and mare sprint on the dirt last year to CC. She's going back. She got flattered the other day. The filly she beat at Del Mar run a big race at Keeneland that slammed. Mm-hmm. So she's going back for that. And then we have a Breeders' Cup winning your in horse called Bran, won the big sprint at Kentucky Downs. He's going. And then we'll run a couple of horses on the undercard. So I like to stay busy. We'll have some other action over there.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you taking time today to talk about Flightline, and wishing you the best as Breeders' Cup approaches.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, you guys.
Support award-winning independent horse industry journalism and become a Paulick Report Insider on Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, insiders get access to exclusive Q&As with Paulick Report staff, insight behind our editorial process, exclusive opinions and on-site analysis, Paulick Report merch, and more. This is not a paywall. The website you know and love will always be the same. But if you want more, and you want to make our coverage even better, visit patreon.com/Paulick Report and become a Paulick Report Insider today.